Welcome back to Morning Live. This morning we are focusing on an issue that Africa has been battling to curb for many years. We're putting a spotlight on albinism, as it is still believed Sangomas are still hunting down people living with albinism in search of their body parts to be used to make money and use them for healing purposes. With the most recent incident being the murder of a 13-year-old girl in Mpumalanga. Nomasonto Mazibuko from the Albinism Society of South Africa joins us now in studio to help us unpack this. Mama, welcome to Morning Live. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to your viewers.
We've continued to see several cases of people living with albinism being mutilated, being kidnapped, being murdered for muti purposes, for good luck and for supposed wealth. As a society, how do we measure, or how do you measure the work that you've been doing to try and curb this issue?
I think the first thing, it is very important that the work that I started in 1992 has come now to the fore. Let's concentrate on the myth that says people with albinism do not die, they disappear. Today we've got proof that we don't disappear. We are kidnapped and killed, and our body parts are given to certain people who come and think our body parts give luck. I think the measurement that my work is now amplified by the fact that we've got perpetrators. We are looking into the case, and they themselves, the people who are traditional healers, are divided, because some of them say we don't do it, and yet we've got proof of a person who have killed a 13-year-old, and this person has proven and took us to the grave. Because if the perpetrator did not lead us to get the body parts and lead us to say who are the people who bought, we would say Tandazile Kabsile disappeared. But in this case, we have seen that even our homes are not safe now, because the perpetrator came during the night and when everybody was sleeping, and when you are at home, we have locked all doors.
And that's where you're supposed to feel more secure. But let's talk about some of the myths that currently exist around people living with albinism. I mean, I remember growing up in Diepkloof, Soweto, and our parents, our grandmothers, our grandfathers would tell us to do certain things when we saw people living with albinism. I know one of the acts was to literally put spit down your chest so that you don't have a child born with albinism. Many myths exist. What are some of these myths that people need to interrogate?
The first one is that we don't die, we disappear. And the second one is that if you have a sexual intercourse with a virgin, your HIV status will be cured. And the issue that says we've got medicinal powers, something that we touch becomes very amplified to say we've got this luck. There's no luck. And it is
if you had the luck, you'd be rich yourself.
No, besides me being rich, my parents would be rich, because at my home we have 5 people with albinism. So can you imagine how rich this family is? And Pearl, for you to be in Soweto, we never lived in fear. I've got an 80-year-old sister who never, it was never unheard of. It was like, we know there's this myth that we disappear. But I've buried 3 of my siblings. And now the spitting and the beliefs, it's like ghosts. I still believe now, at this age, that there are no ghosts. Because everybody was telling us there was Vera the ghost in Meadowlands. But none of the people, they saw signs. So it is the education that now the Albinism Society is out there to educate and allay the fears that we have as a society.
Indeed, and you've been quite vocal in urging government and civil society groups to do more to put the spotlight on this issue. Do you think enough progress and enough strides are being made?
I wouldn't say enough, because it is work in progress. But from where I started, we have now engaged with the government, and the United Nations in the Human Rights Committee has now declared albinism, one, a disability. Why would we say we are disabled? Because of our eyes and our physique. A person with albinism lacks melanin in the eyes, in the hair, and in the skin. So it means now government is aware, by the virtue that they are signatories to the treaty to say people with albinism are disabled. So government has come into the fore. We are working very closely, and we are funded by the social development. And now we've got a play that was viewed yesterday through this play. The Department of Arts and Culture has funded this play, and we've seen that, and we think we will go on with government, because now there's social security, there's SAPS, where we've engaged. We're working very closely with the police. We've had first to educate them, to say, no, people would see Swafilele, Leankau, Ifin, Maufia, a police station, when you say, Nomasonto has disappeared, they say, it's a no, mama, don't worry. But now we've educated them to understand what albinism is. So we're working together with government. And it is one thing to get the perpetrator, even if we can sentence him for life sentence. But we need to work with the mindset, and people should change their attitude. As for you, Pearl, yourself, you did not understand why you should spit. And nobody, albinism is a genetic condition. Whether you spit, whether you don't spit, if you've got the gene, you will have a child with albinism. And now we're changing the mindset of the people, not to believe that the spitting has power, but we know that it's genetic, and two parents should have the gene. It's not an issue of a woman. Men should also understand that they themselves are carriers of the gene, that is the gene that gives the albinism condition.
Thank you very much for actually making that clear. Now, we look at all these murders that have taken place. I mean, the story of Gabsile and many others, completely heartbreaking. Parents are living in fear. They fear for their children's lives. Are there any words of encouragement that you can say to those parents who have children, especially with albinism, and they just don't know if their child or children are safe when they go to school, if they should send them to the shops, or if anyone can come into their home at night with guns and take their children?
I would say to parents, I really respect and honor the parents of children who have albinism or children who are disabled, because parenting is very difficult. Even if your child doesn't have albinism, the child will also be safety, be hunted. Safety in this country is key, because we see that everybody is hunted. And I say to the parents, they must take precautions, make sure where the children are, give them extra care, educate the children themselves that you don't talk to strangers. But we cannot say what can happen, because now people come into the house. That is how much daring they are. But through God's grace, we will be saved. And working very closely with the SAPS, we will find that. And as we talk, people themselves, and it is not going to be the parents of children with albinism. It is societal. You take a village to raise a child. So let's unite and say #albinism activism. So anybody who has a neighbor who sees a child with albinism, can we work together and bring safety to the fore? And we're saying to the police, it is your duty to see that there's safety. But if we educate and try and change attitudes, then we will find that people with albinism are going to live in peace. Because remember, Pearl, we're also contributing in this country. And our constitution says to us, dignity first and life for all. Why are you taking my life as a person with albinism to go and defeat your own ends? I don't give luck. So believe in one thing. Even the traditional healers, we are in conversation with them. They say they don't use people's body parts.
Indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for a very powerful conversation. Your insights are much appreciated. Continue doing the work that you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That's the Executive Director of the Albinism Society of South Africa, Nomasonto Mazibuko. And we were in conversation with her about the fights against the attacks